The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the office, the wipers of my old Volvo working overtime. I am Quillan, 43, and I work as a software architect in Seattle. It's not a glamorous job, but it paid the bills and allowed my wife, Juniper, to pursue her passion as a freelance artist. We had been married for 15 years, or so I thought. I knew her. The first sign that something was wrong was subtle. Juniper started staying late at her studio more often. She said she was working on a big commission, a series of paintings for a new coffee shop downtown. I didn't think much of it at first. Juniper was a dedicated artist, and I knew how much these opportunities meant to her. But then came the phone calls. Juniper would rush out of the room to answer them, her voice hushed and secretive. When I asked who was calling, she'd say it was a client or a gallery owner. I wanted to believe her, but a knot of unease was tightening in my stomach. One evening, Juniper said she had to go to a gallery opening in Bellevue. "It's important for networking," she explained, smoothing down her dress in front of the mirror. I offered to go with her, but she brushed me off. "It's a work thing, Quillan. You wouldn't enjoy it." That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with doubts and suspicions. I got up and went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out the window at the rain-soaked street. That's when I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know the truth. I went back to the bedroom and found Juniper's phone on her nightstand. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I picked it up and opened her messages. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through the list of contacts. And then I saw it. A name I didn't recognize, Jasper. I clicked on the conversation, my hands shaking. The messages were explicit, filled with intimate details and promises of love. It was clear Juniper was having an affair. The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. I sank down onto the bed, numb with shock and disbelief. I read through the messages again and again, trying to make sense of it. Who was Jasper? How could Juniper do this to me? We had built a life together, a home, a family. How could she throw it all away for some fling? As I read on, I discovered that Jasper was a local sculptor, a man Juniper had met at an art fair a few months ago. He was everything I wasn't: charming, charismatic, and worldly. He was the kind of man who could sweep a woman off her feet. The next morning I confronted Juniper. I didn't yell or scream. I simply showed her the messages. Her face drained of color as she read them, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Quillan, I can explain," she stammered, but I cut her off. "No, you can't," I said, my voice cold and hard. "There's nothing to explain. It's all right here in black and white." Juniper started to cry, begging me to forgive her. She said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. She swore she still loved me and wanted to make things right, but I couldn't bring myself to believe her. The trust was gone, shattered into a million pieces. "I need you to leave," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't look at you right now." Juniper packed a bag and left, her sobs echoing through the empty house. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of anger, sadness, and relief. It was over. Our marriage was over. In the days that followed, I felt like I was living in a fog. I went to work, but I couldn't concentrate. I ate, but I couldn't taste anything. I slept, but I was haunted by nightmares. I spent hours replaying our marriage in my head, searching for clues I had missed. Had I been blind to Juniper's unhappiness? Had I failed her in some way? I couldn't find any answers. All I knew was that I had been betrayed by the person I loved most in the world. I confided in my best friend, Bertram, a kind and understanding man who had always been there for me. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, offering words of comfort and support. "You'll get through this, Quillan," he said. "It won't be easy, but you're strong. You'll find a way to move on." Bertram suggested I see a therapist, someone who could help me process my emotions and make sense of what had happened. I was hesitant at first, but I knew I needed help. I made an appointment with a therapist named Blythe, a compassionate woman with a gentle demeanor. Blythe helped me understand that Juniper's affair was not my fault. It was her choice, her responsibility. She had betrayed me, and I had every right to be angry and hurt. But I couldn't let her actions define me. I had to find a way to heal and rebuild my life. As I started to heal, I began to uncover more about Jasper. He wasn't just a sculptor. He was a con artist, a manipulator who preyed on vulnerable women. He had a string of affairs, each one ending in heartbreak and financial ruin. I learned that Juniper wasn't his only victim. He had targeted other women in the art world, using his charm and talent to gain their trust and then exploiting them for his own gain. I felt a surge of anger, not just at Juniper, but at Jasper for taking advantage of her. I decided I couldn't let Jasper get away with what he had done. I contacted the other women he had hurt, and together we gathered evidence of his fraudulent activities. We went to the police, and they launched an investigation. Jasper was eventually arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. He was convicted and sentenced to several years in prison. Justice had been served. As for Juniper, she was devastated by Jasper's arrest. She realized she had been a fool, blinded by his lies and manipulations. She reached out to me, begging for forgiveness. She said she was sorry for the pain she had caused me and wanted to make amends. I was torn. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to put the past behind us and start over, but another part of me couldn't forget what she had done. The trust was gone, and I didn't know if I could ever get it back. I told Juniper that I needed time to think. I needed to figure out what I wanted and what I was capable of. I couldn't make any promises. In the end, I decided that I couldn't forgive Juniper. The betrayal was too deep, the damage too severe. We divorced and I moved on with my life. It wasn't easy. There were days when I missed her terribly, when I longed for the comfort and familiarity of our marriage. But I knew I had made the right decision. I deserved to be with someone who loved and respected me, someone who would never betray my trust. I started dating again, cautiously at first. I met some wonderful women, but none of them felt quite right. And then I met Elowen. She was a kind, intelligent, and compassionate woman who shared my values and interests. We fell in love, and I knew I had found my soulmate. Elowen helped me heal from the wounds of the past and embrace the future with hope and optimism. We got married, and we built a beautiful life together, filled with love, laughter, and trust. Looking back, I realized that Juniper's affair was a turning point in my life. It was a painful and traumatic experience, but it also taught me valuable lessons about love, loss, and forgiveness. I learned that I am stronger than I thought I was, and that I am capable of finding happiness again, even after the most devastating betrayal. And sometimes the greatest betrayals lead you to your greatest blessings. One rainy afternoon, a few years after everything had settled, I received a call from an unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. It was Juniper. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. She told me she was sick, very sick. She needed help. Jasper, it turned out, had left her with nothing but debt and a broken spirit. The art world had shunned her, and she was alone. She asked if I could find it in my heart to forgive her, to help her. Elowen and I talked about it for hours. It wasn't easy. The pain of the past still lingered, but Elowen's compassion and understanding helped me see a different path. We decided to help Juniper, not because she deserved it, but because it was the right thing to do. We helped her find a good doctor, and we provided her with financial support. It wasn't about rekindling a lost love. It was about extending a hand to someone in need. It was about closure, about finding peace within myself. Seeing her struggle, seeing the consequences of her choices, brought a strange sense of resolution. I had moved on, found happiness, and built a new life. She, on the other hand, was living with the wreckage of her decisions. In the end, Juniper passed away peacefully, surrounded by the few friends she had left. I attended her funeral, not as a grieving husband, but as someone who had once loved her and had found the strength to forgive. It was a final goodbye, a closing of a chapter. As I stood there, watching her coffin being lowered into the ground, I felt a sense of closure. I had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I had finally found peace. And now, as I sit here, years later, reflecting on the past, I am filled with gratitude. Gratitude for Elowen, for Bertram, for Blythe, and for all the people who helped me through the darkest period of my life. And even gratitude for Juniper, for without her betrayal, I would never have found my way to the happiness I have today. Betrayal is a cruel teacher, but it can also be a powerful catalyst for growth. If you are going through a similar experience, remember that you are not alone. There is hope, there is healing, and there is a future filled with love and happiness waiting for you. Just keep moving forward, one step at a time, and you will find your way.